We all think we have a pretty good handle on politics. It's a line, right? You're on the left or you're on the right. But what if that map, the one we all use, is just completely wrong? What if the very tool we use to make sense of the world is actually hiding the most important stuff? Well, today we're throwing out that old map.
I mean, seriously, think about it. This single line has been our political GPS for decades. But does it really work? Can you really just cram every single belief onto one spectrum? It just doesn't make sense. And honestly, that's why we need a much, much better map.
The truth is, this one-dimensional line just flattens everything. It crushes all the nuance, creating some really weird allies and even stranger enemies. So today, we're going to look at 3 different models. 3 better maps that give us a much more accurate and frankly more revealing picture of how politics really works.
Okay, so our first upgrade to that old broken map is a tool you've probably seen floating around online, the political compass. This is a huge step up, mostly because it adds a second, absolutely crucial dimension that breaks us out of that single limiting line. So the compass keeps that familiar left-to-right axis we all know. That's for economic policy. Think wealth redistribution versus free markets. But the real game changer is the vertical axis. This one measures your view on state power. Do you want a powerful government that enforces its vision? That's authoritarian, up at the top. Or do you want maximum individual freedom with minimal government? Well, that's libertarian, down at the bottom. And this is where the compass really starts to show its power. It proves that political parties don't just sit still. Back in the 50s and 60s, Democrats were the party of big government, putting them higher up on that authoritarian scale. And the Republicans, they were all about individual liberty. But fast forward to today, and whoa, things have shifted dramatically. Democrats have embraced more social libertarian ideas, while Republicans have taken on more authoritarian stances on certain social issues, all while, ironically, still using the language of freedom. And this is why this tool is so useful. On that old, flat line, you might think a socialist dictator and a social democrat are basically neighbors, but the compass shows they are worlds apart. One wants to use absolute state power to get things done, while the other believes in personal freedom and democracy. They're not just in different neighborhoods, they're in completely different political quadrants. The compass gives us the nuance we've been missing. Okay, so the compass is a great tool, for sure, but it has a kind of hidden flaw. It assumes the political world is a flat map that goes on forever. But what happens in the real world when you push these ideas to their absolute logical extremes? And that question brings us to our second, even more mind-bending model, the political wheel. Just imagine taking that flat compass and literally bending it into a circle, connecting the extremes. This one little change reveals something, well, something that just seems impossible at first. Because at the very top of that wheel, in the land of extreme authoritarianism, the far left and the far right, they start to curve toward each other. And if you push them far enough, they actually touch. It sounds crazy, I know, but it makes perfect sense when you realize what they both need to achieve their goals. Think about it. To force a massive redistribution of wealth, a far-left government needs an enormous state apparatus. And to aggressively protect huge concentrations of wealth, a far-right government also needs an enormous state. Their goals are totally different, but the result is exactly the same, a big, powerful, all-encompassing state. Right, now let's flip that wheel over and look at the bottom. Down in the world of extreme libertarianism, the same wild convergence happens. The complete opposites start curving toward each other. And you guessed it, they meet once again. You've got anarcho-communists on the left who want a society with no state based on sharing. And you've got anarcho-capitalists on the right who want a society with no state, where the free market runs everything. They disagree on pretty much everything except for one absolutely massive point. The state has got to go. So the wheel gives us a really honest map of policy, but it still doesn't quite explain the politics we see on the news every single day. For that, we need our third and final model, the populist funnel. And this is where political theory crashes right into the messy reality of how voters actually see the world. This quote right here just nails it. Populism isn't an ideology you can pin on the wheel. No, it's a strategy, a way of talking. It takes all that beautiful nuance and complexity from the wheel and just crushes it into one simple, powerful conflict. Us against them, the people versus the establishment. The 2016 US election is the perfect example of this. Policy-wise, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump were on nearly opposite sides of the political wheel. But just listen to how they talked. Both of them attacked free trade deals. Both went after Wall Street. And both of them painted themselves as the outsider fighting a rigged, corrupt system. They were singing from the exact same hymn sheet, even though their solutions were from different universes. So you can kind of think of it like this. The wheel, that's the map of the real world, the complex world of policy with all its dimensions and details. It's where the actual governing happens. But populism, it's like a projector. It takes that complex, three-dimensional wheel and casts its shadow onto a simple, flat wall. And that shadow, that one-dimensional projection, is what most voters actually see. It collapses everything into that single, emotionally charged line: the people versus the elites. So what you have are these two realities existing at the same time: the complex, nuanced world of policy and the simple, black-and-white world of perception. And because of this, politicians who are miles apart on the policy map can suddenly look like they're standing shoulder to shoulder just because they're casting a similar shadow on that populist wall. Okay, so we've got a compass, a wheel, and a funnel. Why does any of this actually matter? Well, understanding these different maps isn't just some fun academic exercise. It is absolutely crucial if you want to understand the world we're living in right now. All right, so let's just do a quick recap of what we've covered. The compass is our basic upgrade, adding that vital second dimension to politics. The wheel shows us the startling truth that political extremes actually end up in the same place. And the funnel? The funnel explains that giant disconnect between the real world of policy and the politics we see on our screens. And this brings us to a pretty sobering conclusion. The wheel might be where the policies get made, but the funnel is where the power is won. Politicians who are hostile to democratic norms know they can't win by arguing the fine points on the wheel, so they don't. They step into the funnel, frame themselves as the champion of the people, and they win. It's the most effective path to power in our current landscape. Which leaves us all with one final and pretty urgent question. If the basic political maps we're all handed are broken, and the most powerful political tool is one that actually hides the truth, then how are we supposed to navigate the world we actually live in? How do we find our way when the shadows seem more powerful than reality itself?